Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the March 8th Council meeting. We are here virtually once again, just out of safety for all the residents and staff, and do appreciate folks joining, whether through the Zoom link or by watching us on Facebook. Again, good evening. I'm here with Councilmember Mendoza, our colleagues, Councilmember Rout, Councilmember Blunt, and Councilmember Lundy had prior commitments and not able to join this evening. So as a result, we do not have a quorum. And so what we will do is just move through information sharing for tonight's meeting and then adjourn. So the first item, I know we had the opening prayer on the agenda, go through that, and then just immediately jump into everything else. So Councilmember Mendoza, you want to take the prayer or you want me to do it?
Let's bow our hands. Dear Lord, watch over us, watch all over those that need your guidance. Watch for the mayor and council, ensure that they have the wisdom to lead us in the right direction. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Councilmember Mendoza. We appreciate that. And the first item up on the agenda is following the prayer, is the approval of the agenda, which again, without a quorum, we won't be able to do any formal votes tonight. And that also applies to the approval of the meetings. So we will jump right into the exciting part, which is public comment. Miss Diane Griffin is with us, our town receptionist, and she is going to read the public comments. So Miss Griffin, I'm going to turn it over to you now.
Good evening, Mayor James, Councilman Mendoza, staff, residents, town staff. This public comment comes from Steve White. It reads, this email is a follow-up to my February 7, 2021 email and previous emails below. Many residents are very concerned about the recently flooded and ice-covered 48th Street. Residents are also concerned about the right lane on Quincy Street to the 48th Street corner, which was covered with ice, forcing vehicles to drive into the oncoming traffic lane. On Saturday, February 6th, I sent emails to Bladensburg Police Chief Collington, Purnell, and Public Works, and the Ward 1 council members requesting that they get rid of the ice or close the street for safety. Council member Rout emailed Chief Collington and Purnell quickly responded to make sure the streets were safe. Most of the ice had melted by the time a resident reported the icy street. Purnell sent a service request to State Highway to clean out the storm drains to stop the flooding streets. At the February 8th Town Council meeting, Mayor James said she will contact Erica at State Highway to fix the storm drains and check on a nearby bridge that is nearly collapsing. A drainage ditch was dug along Quincy Street to the 48th Street corner to help drain the water on the westbound lane of Quincy Street. He shows a picture that demonstrates photos that were taken during a recent storm, and it shows that the westbound lane is still flooding even after the drainage ditch was dug out. And the top right photo that Mr. Weiss displayed shows the sidewalk and driveway entrance to the market house, which is also flooded due to the clogged up street drains. And the left bottom picture Mr. Weiss has shows 48th Street at a flooded at the corner of Quincy Place near the SunTrust Bank parking lot. Every time it rains or snows, these streets are flooded and become ice when it freezes. You may recall I made public comment about these flooded streets over a year ago. See my January 13th, 2020 public comments below. I have sent many emails and made many public comments about these flooded and icy streets for over a year now. I hope each of you have taken time to go and see the flooded and icy street when it rains or snows. I would think you would have to agree with many concerned town residents who find these flooded and icy streets to be very dangerous to vehicles and pedestrians. These streets have been flooding for many years now, and one pedestrian has been killed on Quincy Street many years ago. These flooded and icy streets are very dangerous. The street drains need to be cleaned out, and they need to replace the broken underground drain pipe as soon as possible. I am asking the town council and staff to give a public update on recent meetings with state highways to get these repairs done. Please list the state highway update on these repairs on the March 8th town council meeting agenda and present an update during the public town council meeting. I hope State Highway can make these repairs soon before there is another vehicle or pedestrian accident or fatality. State Highway should give these repairs emergency priority, considering the damage and liability these flooded and icy streets present to the public safety. Mr. Weiss, thanks you. That concludes the public comments.
Great. Thank you so much, Ms. Diane Griffin, for reading the comments for us this evening. At this time, that concludes public comment, and we'll move into committee and legislative updates. And then Officer Reinhardt, when you are sharing the code enforcement update, if you want to share some updates as it relates to SHA and MDOT, that would be helpful, and I'll do the same as well. And then we did have Ms. Erica Rigby, who's the engineer for our district, on the agenda. She confirmed, so I'm not sure if another project came up this evening and she wasn't able to attend, but I do not see her listed in the participants, but do want to acknowledge that we'd invited her to come out and speak with us regarding State Highway 769C, which is also 48th Street and Quincy Streets. At this time, we'll move into committee and legislative updates from staff and council. Wanted to give folks on the phone, in case there was a committee meeting for any of the committees that you all sit on with COG, a chance to just report out on updates.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I currently sit on the Chesapeake Bay and Water Resource Policy Committee. They just completed their annual report and just want to give a quick update on some policies that they're currently working on. Right now, they're working with the stakeholders with the state of Maryland, Virginia, and the local municipalities on tracking emergency issues and also regulations that related to the water quality, wastewater, and stormwater and drinking water, and collaborating on the best management practices currently. And just a quick note that the CVPC was asked for a base budget of $90.5 million, and the Chesapeake Pay program has been fully funded for fiscal year 21. That completes my policy report.
Great, thank you, Officer Reinhardt. Anyone else on the committees? I know last month I gave an update on the Clean Energy and Environment Policy Committee had met before the February meeting and shared that info, and then our next meeting is scheduled for the end of this month, so I'll have an update at the April meeting. But if there are no other updates, we'll move into Maryland General Assembly updates, and just want to share there's still legislation being put forth in opposition to the SC Maglev. And so as a result of that, Delegate Nicole Williams did reach out to Ms. McCutcheon and myself to come onto the virtual hearing and provide testimony for that. The bill that she put forth, it is cross-filed in the state Senate, and so we'd previously given testimony for that. The purpose of this bill is to prohibit the state or any unit or instrumentality of the state from using an appropriation for a magnetic levitation transportation system located or to be located in the state. And so this is just another effort to try to block this type of transportation system from coming to the state through making sure that our tax dollars are not now or in the future appropriated to this particular project. And then I do know that Councilmember Lundy, who sits on the Legislative Committee for PGCMA, had some updates which she said she would bring to the next meeting. But I believe in February, she also shared that she was tracking legislation related to law enforcement, so we can ask her about updates on that front as well. But if there are no more updates on the Maryland General Assembly, we will move forward. The next item is for Mr. Tonelli, our treasurer, under financial business with the constant yield presentation.
Hello, Mayor, council member, staff, residents. February 14th is Valentine's Day, but it's also another great day because we get a new constant yield notice every year. And this is, Rick, I'm gonna go ahead and share a screen here if you can give me access.
You got it.
Okay. And if I wanted access to, where do I find it, Rick? I'm sorry.
Oh, just go to share screen.
There she is. Thank you. Everybody see it okay? How's magnifications, okay? Okay.
Yes, it's good.
The constant yield concept, and this is a presentation I do every year, I freshen it up. It changes every year. The underlying theory is still the same, but just updated based on our new assessments. The constant yield concept is what tax rate will provide the town with the same property tax revenues next fiscal year as this year. So in terms, meaning keeping revenues constant. Now the assumptions with constant yield is as property taxes increase, the tax rate should decrease, so it's offsetting to provide the same constant revenues as a previous year. So as the assessments go up, property values go up, the tax rate should come down. And any rate adopted in excess of the constant yield rate in times of rising assessments needs to be advertised as a tax increase, and we have to do a constant yield hearing. And this is legislated under Maryland Code under Property Tax Section 2-205. What happens is even if you don't change your property tax rate, if your assessments rise and constant yield falls, meaning it wants you to decrease rates because assessments have risen, even though you don't, like in the town Bladensburg instance, we haven't increased property taxes, and Councilmember Mendoza asks you every year, like 15, 20 years at least, probably. I think it's been the same rate at 0.74 for a very long time.
Yeah, it was probably around 2002 that got there.
Yeah, so that was pre most all of us close. So the current rate's 0.74. So even though assessments have gone up, the economy has improved over the years, even though the tax rate hasn't changed, it still advertises a tax increase because constant yield wants you to decrease your tax rate because assessments have increased, even though it's staying the same. And the constant yield wants to move the property tax annually. So every year we get the notice on February 14th of our new property tax assessments. This year, our assessments came in at 3.5% higher than last year. The way property tax assessments work in the state of Maryland, they assess 1/3 of all the properties in the area every single year. And some years we've had 5 to 6% increases, other years less. This year is 3.5% assessments increase. So as a the total property tax assessments increase, they want the constant yield rate wants to decrease it by 3.5%, down from 74 cents per 100 to 72 cents per 100. And this is assuming all things remain unchanged. Municipalities can set any rate regardless of the constant yield, but we have to go through the process. This is a process. It's legislated by the state. So what does a notice look like? It looks like this every year. This is, again, you can see it's done on February 14th of every year. This last year, or the current year, because it starts for July 1, 2020, carries us through June 30, 2021. So the one on the right is this fiscal year. The one on the left is next fiscal year. And you can see where the assessed property this fiscal year right here is $514 million in the town of Bladensburg. It's increasing to $533 million, which is 3.5% increase. And this is our potential revenue to keep the same as last year. So in order to keep the same as last year, they want to constant yield. Constant yield, I talk as a entity. Constant yield wants you to decrease your property tax at the same budget revenues as this fiscal year. So you can see there's a $3,803,178. Now, let me back up real quick. Property taxes are about 2/3 of our total revenues to the town of Bladensburg. They're assessed by the state of Maryland, billed out to residents by Prince George's County, and the residents pay Prince George's County, and then as the payments come in, Prince George's County remits the amounts to the town of Bladensburg. So Bladensburg isn't going out there assessing properties or anything. So, this is a state legislated county process, and we set the tax rate, or the mayor and council set the tax rate, and we do this through the constant yield hearing and through our budget process, and it's billed out by Prince George's County, and then they remit the funds of Bladensburg so we can provide the services to the town, such as public safety, public works, administrative support, and everything else. So this is the revenues this current fiscal year based on almost $514 million of assessed property. At 74, the tax rate is expressed at 74 cents per 100. I just, factor it, in decimal format. So you take the total assessments times 74 cents per 100. It comes to your budget revenues this fiscal year. Next fiscal year is going to increase by 5% to 130,520 because assessments rose 3.5%. Okay, so now this is assuming we stick with the current tax rate. And this is part of the budget process, the constant yield hearing and everything. Constant yield hearing gives residents the opportunity to comment on the tax rate. So what has it looked like the last 7 years? To give you an example, the dark pink column is our actual property tax rate every fiscal year and planned. I should put here planned because this is not set yet for FY22. But it's been 74 cents per 100 of assessed property values. Now I can see in every year, assessments have increased, say 4.7% in FY16. So the constant yield rate was 4.7% less. Constant yield wanted you to decrease it to 0.70, 70 cents per 100, which is a 4.7 decrease because assessments went up. And you can see that the same goes through every fiscal year. At the high of FY18, assessments increased 5.4%. You can see the constant yield rate comes down because the higher the assessments rise, the more it wants you to reduce your tax rate. Again, this is assuming all things remain unchanged, but in reality is because assessments are rising, we also have increased costs as well. Increased costs, to provide services to the town of Bladensburg. Some municipalities change their tax rate every year, and that is up to them. I mean, I was talking to a municipality that they're looking at increasing taxes almost 20 cents, just to try to catch up. Yeah. Because they need a lot of investment in infrastructure and public safety, and roads. And, you know, they might have to do a one-time large tax increase. So the constant yield is more of a, it's a base process, but the power and control is still within the municipalities to set their rate. And you can see what, and this is just a graph, linear form. What happens when a down economy? Question comes up when assessments actually decrease. They fall from previous years. Well, we had that in FY13. You can see, and that was, Councilman Mendoza helped me out. That was the last correction, I guess you could say, with the housing.
Yeah, the housing crash.
Yes, and you can see where assessments dropped 16%. I think Bladensburg was in a little bit more favorable area than other areas of the county, but because the assessments dropped 16%, there's one time where the constant yield wanted to go higher than your current tax rate, because it's looking at what's going to happen if you keep the same tax rate. It wants to keep things constant as a year before. So when assessments drop that much, it wants you to increase your tax rate to compensate yourself for it. We didn't do that, but that's the way constant yield works. That is the one instance where assessments decreased versus going the other way. So what happens with the process? We have to advertise in a paper, which is getting tougher and tougher to do around here. Hopefully that's something we can put in legislation where you can advertise other means on social media or something like that. But anyway, we have to advertise in a paper, and it's set in law, set in code exactly how you must advertise, and it is exactly this. And we even send this off to the State Department of Assessments and Taxation to make sure the ad meets their criteria, and then it's advertised in the paper. And then it's everything I showed you, that the assessments are going to rise by 3.5%, resulting in additional revenues of $132,520 over this fiscal year. But the constant yield rate should be decreased to 0.7151 or 71 cents per 100. And if the town wishes to keep the current tax rate, we have to have a public hearing at our May 10th, 2021 meeting. So that's the process. It's going to be a little bit, they allowed us to add this year that it's going to be done virtually, so people can still send in their comments. What's a penny worth? Well, every penny of tax is worth $53,185 revenues to the town. So that's just a quick thing. People like to say, where's my money going, or how much is a tax increase going to cost, or how much is a cut going to cost. That is just what it costs the town. And when we get into the budget process, you can see how much of our taxes actually go to public safety, public works, administrative, general support, grants, capital outlay, and that's something we will get into with the budget process. So that is it in a nutshell. If anybody has any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Tonelli. Councilmember Mendoza, any questions from your side? I know you've gone through this several times, but I do think it's important to note something that Mr. Tonelli said, which is because we don't play with the tax rate, we leave it steady. It puts us in a position where we have that additional revenue, it helps with our reserve fund. So if we hit another COVID crisis and there is no grant funding coming from the federal government, we have some funds there that we can utilize to support our residents and continue providing them the services that they need. Going back to that chart, which is pretty dramatic when you look at FY13 in particular, for those of us who were here in that housing crisis, remember seeing all these foreclosures and people just leaving homes that they had been in for decades. And again, for the town to be able to get through that significantly financially devastating period without raising our taxes is huge. And so I know, again, the hearing will be in May, should we decide to leave it as it is, and also when the rest of our colleagues can join us at that meeting. But I do think it's important to just say, I am for leaving it at the 0.74 cents per $100. I don't think it's good practice to start adjusting that and get into a situation where we need a reserve and we have nowhere to go for that support for our residents. Any other comments? Yes,
Yeah, we
Councilmember.
also didn't have any furlough, which most of the towns and municipalities and counties have furlough during that time. We didn't.
And that's a good point to know. We didn't have to let any of our staff go. And that, right, being able to keep their jobs and not, put them in a position of financial uncertainty is critical as well. That's a very good point. Thank you, Council Member.
And Mayor, I think it's also good for the stability for the residents too, to know their taxes aren't going to, so they know what they're going to be paying every year. Instead of like, I hate to use this analogy, but like a homeowners association has to do like an emergency assessment or something that has to, if they don't have the funds, they, do a special tax assessment or something. We're fortunate we don't have to do that because we have the reserves to operate on, but those reserves, we need to front money for grants and capital projects, and also to really, we operate 3 to 4 months out of the fiscal year without any revenues, because it takes, those property tax revenues don't come in until mid-October sometimes. And that's the largest part of our budget. So we have to operate almost over a quarter of the year without any substantial revenues coming in. So we need to have that. So we're lucky, and we need to have that sort of float to operate off of as well.
And that's a good point, Mr. Tonelli, because, I've started looking at that, and typically it gets a little concerning around September 15th when you don't
Yeah, my
see
blood
that
pressure
first
rises.
wave.
Yeah,
That's right. And then if September 30th comes and, when we see that financial report and it's not there, and we know, oh gosh, we got to wait until October to get that first hit. I mean, it's a little stressful. I know it concerns me, but as treasurer, I'm sure it keeps you up at night more.
And I know
so
it's going to
than
happen
me.
every year, and it's still stressful every single year. It doesn't help. It's still,
Yeah.
I could go through it for 20 years and I would still be stressed out about it just because it's, so it's a big chunk. You have to operate in the hole. So and that's the part that's the tough part.
And it does really give you a glimpse as to what to expect, once you get that first major bump of tax revenue. So are we going to be ahead, or are we lower than projected? So
well, I'm going to
again,
I'm going to jump ahead a little bit in my financial report. Just to tack onto that, we didn't know what the pandemic was going to do to people's ability to pay property taxes. Because we were in the middle of a lockdown when we were passing the budget. So we took the projected revenues and we decreased them by 6%, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it is a lot, because just trying to be conservative, thinking that folks wouldn't have the, the ability to pay. But fortunately, it's worked out better, and we're actually collecting the revenues. The county is, so that worked out well. But that's another instance that if those revenues didn't come in, what would we do? So, but we're fortunate there.
Absolutely. Thank you again for walking us through that. And so when we come back for the April meeting, or if there's a budget meeting prior to, would love to get the rest of the council's input on that as well. At this time, we'll move into the department reports. I do want to let everyone know Chief Collington could not be with us tonight, so please keep him in your thoughts and prayers with the passing of his mother recently. But Code Enforcement Officer Reinhardt, if you want to give us your updates.
Yes, ma'am. And mine will be brief. Over the past month, we've actually had an uptick of abandoned vehicles in town. And I think a lot of the abandoned vehicles are just people just like dumping vehicles in the town of Bladensburg, especially in our residential section. So we had 8 abandoned vehicles in the town. We had 2 in the business area and 1 in the apartment area. And 3 of those vehicles were actually impounded. Once we put our 48-hour notice on, usually they disappear, but we had 3 this month that did not disappear. So we actually removed them from the residential area. I want to extend a huge thanks out to Public Works. They did an outstanding job over the past month with it seemed like almost daily weather episodes we were having, either from the ice and the snow, and them guys did a great job. And I was very fortunate to be able to help them out one day with pre-treat and take me back to my old Public Works day. So that always puts a smile on my face there. We also did a lot of assisting this past month with the town food drive, which is back up and running and everything. And it's great to see the residents come out and everybody comes out that really benefits from that program that we do. I don't know, and I know Mr. Hall is going to go into this, but I know this has been an ongoing project for quite some time. Is if everybody's out there seeing riding through town of Blandford, you actually start to see some milling equipment out there. We're finally seeing the light at the end of the tunnel with the WSSC project in the underground sewer and water line replacement on several other streets. So please be patient with them. Abide by the signs. If they ask you to have your vehicle moved, please have it moved for them. We're going to get some very, very good, nice, smooth streets very soon. So just be patient with them and be patient with us here in the town, and we'll make sure this is a smooth transition, that everybody gets some great streets again. That completes my report, Mayor.
Great. Thank you, Officer Reinhardt. And you're right. Just a little more patience. We're almost there. It's been 3 years, maybe a hair longer than that, but we're almost there. Lights almost off, going off at the end of the tunnel. Next up, we will hear from Public Works.
Yes. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Basically, I want to recite a couple of things what Mr. Reinhardt said. I want to thank the guys for doing an outstanding job in the snowstorm. Not only did they perform safely in the snow, but they performed safely in the freezing rain as well. And also, I noticed we had several complaints about the 5200 block of Newton Street with the yellow center line fading away. Due to the cold temperatures, this type of project will have to be done in the springtime when the asphalt warms up. So we're not throwing it off or anything, but to have a good painted surface, you have to wait to the weather warm up a little bit. And also I want to reinstate what Mr. Reinhardt said too. If you see any notices that's given to you, please obey so they can do the work safely and properly. Thank you. That's the end of my report.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Hall, for those updates. And I also want to echo the gratitude with the very, very great work that you and your team did between the sleet storms and the snow and all the crazy weather that we had in February. I can't say what happened once you left the town borders, but it was nice knowing that our streets were well plowed, well salted, pre-treated, the whole 9 yards. And most people may not realize this, but when that happens, you all go into active mode. And so you're running shifts before most people are even out of bed in the morning or late at night, as they're going to bed. You guys are out there monitoring the road conditions and just doing everything you can to keep us safe. And so I just want to echo the gratitude for all the good work that you all do.
Thank you.
Absolutely. If I could just take a pause, I did notice Mr. Derek Gunn is with us from the State Highway Administration. Mr. Gunn, thank you for joining us. We're just going to continue with our department reports. We have one or two more to go, and then we'd like to come back and give you an opportunity if you are okay with presenting to us, because we did reach out just to see if SHA could share some updates as it relates to the work going on Quincy and 48th Streets. So we'll continue. We have the treasurer's report next, Mr. Gunn, and then we'll come back to you if that's all right.
Thank you, Mayor.
Absolutely. Mr. Tonelli, over to you.
Well, I'll keep this brief, ish, because I do want to do a full third quarter report at the April work session as we get into the budget process. But I'd like to touch on a few things here. I would like to hear from State Highway though. But this is a summary report of our financials through February, which is 2/3 of the way through the fiscal year. This is my summary report, but I have full financials. I follow full detailed financials. I can email these out to anybody who needs it. But just to touch on some of the highlights, our revenues were 2/3 of the way through the fiscal year, but our biggest driver of revenues, our property tax, is, as I talked a few minutes ago, we are ahead of budget because we decreased the amount that we thought we were going to get into in this fiscal year, but we actually have received all of that, or most of it, 98% of it. 98% of it. So that's why it's at 103% of revenues received. The same thing with the personal property tax. That is taxes assessed on business personal property. And we have another large round coming through with the April 15th and June 15th tax filings. So we will see additional revenues in there. Over here in this column, this green column, this is just a comparison of where we were last fiscal year at the same time. So we're pretty much on target here compared to last fiscal year. We're 3% ahead, but with 80% of the revenues in this fiscal year. The big highlight though is our expenditures, our expenses. 2/3 of the way into the fiscal year, our operating expenses are at 55%. Our total expenses are at 52% of budget. And our biggest driver, well, down here is expenses by department. Every department is operating under budget. We have some major vacancies in the town. And also what's in here is our COLA and merit, which have not been paid out yet. The merit was approved at the last meeting. That should be paid out this month. But the largest driver is the vacancies that have occurred throughout the fiscal year. And that gives you budget savings, but at what cost though? At what cost of services not being provided, support not being provided. But, you know, the good news is we're operating under total budget this fiscal year. Grants expense, we're going to see this increase as 58th Avenue happens, which is almost a $200,000 project. We're going to see the also the street lighting on 57th and 58th through Community Legacy as that's paid out and done. And this is just graphically of revenue, major items compared to budget. The darker on the back is the actual. The lighter up front, I'm sorry, back up. The darker on the back is our budget, and the actual up front, the lighter blue shade columns are what we've actually received through February. And this is how we build our budget, trends. And I keep these graphs and reports basically the same each fiscal year. It's not because, we won't change things up, but so we have a good trend. So we can go back, it's just trend analysis, and it's all punched into the budget program. And the same with the expenditures by department. You can see the darker columns in the back are the total budget, and the lighter columns up front are actual through February fiscal year 21. And we're 2/3 of the way through the fiscal year. Again, revenues are up, expenses are down. So we're doing well. Again, detailed financials follow. I put this in the packet every single month. And it's something that we go through and revisit constantly. So it's just part of the process. So if anybody has any questions, comments, answers?
Councilmember Mendoza, any questions
No.
from the rest of the team? All right, and Mr. Tonelli, as you said, was it the merit we approved last month, the 1.5%? So that'll get paid out in March. Did I hear that correctly? Year to
Correct.
date?
Yeah.
Okay. And so just based on this, looking at where we are revenue to expenses, we're well able to cover the COLA, it looks like. I know we, when the rest of the council is able to be with us next month, we'll plan to revisit that, but it's good to
Absolutely.
see where we are, in relation to budget right now.
Yeah, and as you know, it's just going to keep, the savings are going to keep continuing. So because it takes time to fill positions, it takes time to fill executive level positions. So, and we do our due diligence with any positions that we hire. I mean, it's a full background process, procedure, and everything. We just don't, flip through a stack of resumes, pull one out and say, here we go. I mean, it's we want to make sure we have the right people here at Bladensburg providing service.
Right, absolutely. Thank you again, Mr. Tonelli. I do want to give some time to our guest, Mr. Derek Gunn, again, who took the time to join us this evening from SHA/MDOT. Mr. Gunn, want to turn it over to you to share some updates. I think from the email you saw that I sent Mrs. Rigby, we just wanted to hear more about the work that we've been requesting on State Highway or State Road 769C, which is Quincy and 48th Streets in the town of Bladensburg. So we'll turn it over to you for some more information.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council, for having me here tonight. And sorry it was a little bit erratic getting online. But what I would say is this: Erica shared with me some of the concerns, and if it's your concerns, it's our concerns. So 769C, I believe there's two different efforts that are happening right now. One is related to drainage issues. And from my understanding, speaking with some of our maintenance leads, there has been some work done at that location. And I guess the question is, when can we, from the state highway perspective, get in there and wrap that up? So I do have some good news, is that is on our radar, and we got over some hurdles, and we're going to be looking to move that forward this spring to finish up that work. And what I will do is keep the town council and you, Mayor, kind of not a blow by blow, but give you periodic updates in terms of how that work's coming along, and just to make sure that we're on pace to complete that this spring. But it looks like that's the angle we're going at. There is another 769C project. This one seems like it's had a little bit longer of a shelf life. It's more or less, I believe it's ADA type improvement, sidewalks on the south side, if I'm not mistaken, and then some intersection reworkings and so forth. Now that project, I believe right now that project ran into some challenges with the pandemic and some of those concerns. And so right now we're trying to look for opportunities to move that forward. The revenue picture, it's become a little bit more clear, at least more clear than it was at this time last year. So hopefully we can find some methods or some ways to get that one going forward a little bit. But that's another project that will keep the town fully abreast of what's happening, and every step of the way. One thing I did want to share, and this is just a little bit more broad brushed, is that SHA right now, we're embarking on a new initiative. It's very pedestrian safety centric, and it's called our context driven design initiative. And really what that is looking at engineering treatments a little bit differently, trying to partner with the communities and really understand what their needs are out there, and not using a one size fits all type prescriptive treatment. So what I will do after this meeting, because I really do love talking about the context guide. I think it's really neat, and it's something that we should have taken on a while ago. But what I will do after this meeting is I'll share a link with the town council and be available for any follow-up questions. But we have applied that successfully, some of the treatments in that guidance district-wide, Montgomery and Prince George's County, and we've seen some successes. So maybe it's something that we can speak about a little bit later and see where there's opportunities for the town of Bladensburg.
Great, thank you, Mr. Gunn, for those updates. I do want to go back to the first item with respect to the work that's being done or was requested with the drainage. Mr. Hall, our public works supervisor, had received an email the week before last that the work on the pipe and drainage was going to be done over the weekend from Friday to Monday. And then we didn't hear anything back for a few days. And then I believe it was last Thursday, Mr. Hall, correct me if I'm wrong, he received an email from MDOT indicating that they were told to hold off on continuing the work. And this particular work, it's not even the bigger scale project that's needed, because I understand funding was an issue, as you mentioned, due to the pandemic, but the compromise was we were told some pipes could be replaced on that stretch of road to help at least alleviate the current situation. And that would be a fix for now until the broader project could have been done. So we were excited about that. We communicated that information to our residents. And then last week, we again on Thursday, I believe the email indicated that higher ups kind of just said, hey, hold up on the work. And so Mr. Hall, do you want to jump in case I summarized incorrectly or left anything out?
Sure. Good afternoon, sir. How you doing? My name is Cornell Hall. I'm the public works supervisor, as the mayor stated. Yes, I've been in contact with Mr. Gregg and also Mr. Soulsby from your department. And I was emailed by Mr. Gregg, stated that they have already started saw cutting the route of the area, which is about no more than about 75 feet, that the drain, the underground pipe was clogged at their video and they seen. So I asked him a question: why did he get stopped in the middle of a project that was allocated by you all and begin by y'all? So someone else, Mr. Soulsby, I think, stated that y'all not going to do the temporary term, as you stated, y'all might do the whole big project. So we was kind of confused of why the guys started it and then got put on hold just for maybe 3 days worth of work.
Understood clearly, and thank you, sir. So what I would say is two things. One, Justin Sosaby, he's our newly appointed Assistant District Engineer of Maintenance for Prince George's County. He's before that he was at our Laurel shop, so he's probably familiar with this area and some of the concerns. One thing I would say is that I'll double back with Greg and Justin just to see what some of the hiccups were there. But my impression right now is that, again, we got over some of our constraints, and we're just looking to move forward with the larger project sooner than we thought we could. So that might have factored into some of his conversation with you, that at that time that decision had not been reached, but it has now. So I would say this is that let me check in with both of them and see what the timelines are on the larger project versus just going forward with the temporary. Because, for example, it sounded like we were ready to go on the larger project. I said spring to be loose, but it seemed like it might be even sooner than that. So if that's the case, then that's probably what we would, that's what the difference was. But let me kind of retract a little bit and see where that stands and get you a pretty good answer on timelines following this meeting.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
And Mr. Gunn, we do appreciate that. So it does sound like things were moving in tandem, people proceeding with work on the smaller project while the powers that be were working on the bigger, much higher concern. So we're definitely grateful for that. Councilmember Mendoza, did you have any questions or anyone else from the staff that you wanted to raise while we have Mr. Gunn with us?
No, I appreciate you, Mr. Gunn.
Thank you. And one thing I would say to kind of conclude is that, at the district, since it's operations and some of the folks on the DPW side can attest to this, things move very quickly. So decisions that were a week ago, sometimes get superseded, unfortunately, and this looks like that might have been the case here. But what we will do to follow up is, one, if I could, I'll share with the town a resource guide of everyone at the district and certain points of contact for certain specific concerns. And I think that's a good tool. And then we will share those coordinated schedules with the town on the drainage issues. And if we get any more information on the pedestrian safety project.
Thank you, Mr. Gunn. And then just one follow-up question. So as you're coming along 48th and Quincy Street, as you're exiting out of the town, the bridge there is, I just want to make sure I'm clear, is that included in the bigger project? Because that is also a concern in addition to the pipes and the drainage issues. I drove over there on Saturday and that road just looks like it could go in any minute now. I hate to say it that way, but it's just the infrastructure is failing. So I just want to be clear, is that included in the larger project?
I want to say yes, but let me make sure before I
Okay.
misspeak in front of the
Yeah,
town.
let us
And I
know.
can
If
tell you-
not, we'll start moving emails and letters and whatever to, help support you in getting approval for that.
Understood. And if I can say is, or if I can share this, actually, I don't live too far from Bladensburg. I'm right down the street in Chevrolet. So I'm very familiar with the area and, hopefully we can all kind of get to those final resolutions and help.
Definitely appreciate that. Okay, I promise that was the last question. We will let you go. But certainly appreciate it and look forward to following up over email to keep the progress on this moving forward. And of course, if you all need anything from us, we're here to assist as well. But again, just thank you so much for taking the time to be with us tonight.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Everyone have a good night.
You as well. Thank you.
Yes, Mayor James, hello. Good
Hi, Ms. Zammit. Good evening. Thank you
Yes.
for joining us. So everyone, Ms. Elaine Zammit is a representative from Senator Malcolm Augustine's office. Some of the emails that were sent regarding the State Highway Administration issue, she was helping to escalate those on the state side while staff was, working through their colleagues as well. And so, Ms. Zammit, I do want to thank you for your support and, doing everything you could to just make calls and emails to ensure that things were moving forward, but do want to give you an opportunity to speak as well.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And thank you for inviting us to your work session this evening, particularly this one, as it, pertains to a lot of the construction work and the projects that are ongoing, in the area. And I got a wealth of information from Mr. Gunn and all of the other participants. And I really am so happy to have joined us because this helps us to make sure that we're doing the right thing, that Senator has his finger on the pulse of the community. And this is a very good kind of like session whereby we learn information at the same time we can gather more support for the ongoing projects. And I just want to take this opportunity, of course, Senator, we're in the thick of it with session and moving along under very different circumstances virtually. And I must say, I'm prejudiced. I'm very proud of the state of Maryland for how we just kind of can move ahead. And with leadership like yours, Mayor James, that shows that we can do the best we can under the most difficult and unforeseen of circumstances. So I just want to take this opportunity. Senator, as you know, he's working, one of his main focus right now is working on mental health, trying to make sure that the community is healed from inside out with stronger communities, stronger families, stronger neighborhoods, and we thrive more than survive. So that's one of the main focus. But again, once again, the environment, making sure our bridges, our streets are safe, making sure that our community is a place where people can really have a very high standard, a very healthy standard of living. So I'm not going to take up too much time because I know you had a robust agenda, but I do want to say thank you so much for this evening's meeting, because I learned a lot, and now I'll be able to take more back to the senator and work with you, Mayor, on a continuing basis. So thank you very much. And thank you so much for Mr. Gunn. And I ask that everyone please include Senator Malcolm in everything that you do moving ahead, so that we can all be on the same page. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you as well. And I appreciate your kind remarks, but I'm part of a team. And so I want to take my hats off to our amazing staff and our council members.
Absolutely.
It's a team effort.
Absolutely.
And so I definitely can't take all the credit. I do appreciate the
Yes.
accolades and, express the same sentiment to you all. We appreciate all of Senator Augustine's support with any bills that are on the horizon, and any support needed, please let me know so we can be here to testify or write letters, whatever you all need. We're here to work together. So
Right.
we want to keep that momentum going throughout the remaining part of the session.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And at this time, we will jump into the mayor and council report. So Councilmember Mendoza, I'll turn it over to you.
Good evening, Mayor and council and staff and the audience. The other day I got a phone call from somebody about the maglev, which I believe was really interesting, because they're trying to see if we want to support the maglev. And I had to tell them that we've been against it since day one. And these are some elected official within Maryland, within Prince George's, that were trying to reach me. And I was like, well, I really can't discuss much. I mean, I could listen to you, but that's all I could do. So just want to be aware that there might be some people calling some of us, trying to influence us in some ways. So just want to put that out there. And I also want to thank everybody who participated in the Black History Month. It was a wonderful event. Thank everybody, the staff and the council and the mayor. You guys all did a great job. It was really awesome. And, it's really good that even during the pandemic, we still managed to have a good time. And that's all I have.
Great. Thank you, Councilmember Mendoza, for all your work on behalf of the community and for being a part of the Black History Committee this year, as you've done many years before. It was great to see new folks getting involved from the staff, along with some of our veterans like Miss Diane, coming together and putting together a great program. With respect to my updates for this month, or the month of February meetings and activities, I did meet with Maryland Energy Administration, specifically Eric Kaufman, the Director of Programs, and his team. And I want to invite him out to a future council meeting to share with our residents some of the programs that are available. And then also to share with the council and staff some of the resiliency programs that we can go after grant funding for, in order to, again, looking back at the flood situation and other weather situations, make sure that our community is properly structured, or that we have the right resources in place so that we can withstand those kinds of things. They also took a great deal of time to mention some of the programs they have for the business community as well. So definitely was a fruitful meeting. I appreciate the police department for putting together the cookies and hot cocoa and taking that event throughout the town to give us an opportunity to get together, to see residents that we haven't really been able to engage with due to the pandemic. I want to thank all the residents for coming out and just taking the time to connect with us. I think someone might be unmuted there. I'm hearing some background noise. But again, appreciate the community action team leading the way with that, and the other officers being a part, supporting along with chief and the command staff and the council for coming out as well. We did actually the African American Mayors Association. We had a listening session with Vice President Kamala Harris on February 10th, and it was to give us an opportunity to hear plans from the administration and how they'll translate back to smaller communities such as ours, and really have the opportunity to talk about the American Rescue Plan, the relevance to American families and businesses. So it was a unique opportunity. I was hoping to have a chance to talk with her. Didn't realize it would come this soon in the administration's time, but it was definitely fruitful to have that opportunity to share concerns at the highest level of our government. And a couple of other things I wanted to mention. Please continue to keep our firefighter, Evan Webster, in your prayers. There was a bad fire in early February, and he did suffer some injuries. He was hospitalized, but he is back home now, continuing to recover. But again, please keep him in your prayers. I think sometimes we take for granted the good work our public safety agencies do on our behalf. And when we're running from danger, they're running in. And so, again, just any thoughts and prayers that you can extend for Evan would be greatly appreciated. But as I said, he is on the road to recovery, and there was a big welcome effort that the fire department put together just to celebrate him and help encourage him. So it was definitely good to be a part of that. And then on February 18th, again, the African American Mayors Association hosted another listening session. This time it was with Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg. And that was really important because, as you know, the maglev is of considerable concern for our communities. And so having the opportunity to tell him directly that this is a concern on so many levels, as you talk about environmental justice and inequities, selling these projects that dissect and disrupt minority communities in order to benefit more affluent communities, which are things that he identified as priorities for the administration. It was good to be able to just tie that directly back to his his conversation and remarks with us to say, and this is why we need your support in stopping this train from coming through our community. So I think it went well. It was definitely a good opportunity to again have that up close and personal conversation with a member of the administration and sharing opportunities for a smaller community. You know, oftentimes they hear from the big cities. So to have little Bladensburg represented was of a particular honor as well. The Boswick House stakeholder group is continuing to meet. And again, as a reminder, that group was brought together with a diverse group of experts from the community and stakeholders to help come up with ideas and plans for economic development to help not just preserve the house, but come up with a viable plan so that we can use that to celebrate our history, have possibly a museum, have economic development tied to it as well. And so those meetings did continue on in the month of February. I also had the opportunity to attend the school board meeting that was held on February 25th and just understand the current issues and dynamics of the school board and encourage our residents, particularly those with school-age children, to please tune into those meetings. If your children are in public schools, you need to understand what our elected officials are doing or are not doing to advance our schools. And particularly given that that budget for the school system is over $2 billion, we need to hold them accountable if they're obstructing progress that is desperately needed to move our school system forward. As Councilmember Mendoza mentioned, the Black History Month was a success, our first virtual one, but it came together, and I want to thank the team. Again, Councilmember Mendoza, Ms. Diane Griffin, Natasha Adams, Kim Green, Council Members Lundy and Rout as well, and Councilmember Blunt. Uh, Everyone contributed ideas and helped, and it came out very well. I also want to thank again the team for deciding to recognize our first African American mayor in David Harrington. I think that was definitely befitting to take a look back at history, but then also to celebrate a piece of our more recent history in our first African American mayor. And then finally, in terms of upcoming events, I want to mention I was asked to testify this coming Thursday. The Prince George's County Council will be meeting or convening as a whole, and the presentation that they'll be receiving is on the Northeast Maglev, so they'll hear from them. I was invited to attend along with Maryland Park and Planning Commission and some other community advocates in order to just, again, communicate the issues that we have with this project in hopes that the County Council will continue to support. I do want to thank them, though. Up to this moment, they've been nothing but stellar, from Councilmember Ivy to Councilmember Glaros, Hawkins. They've been very outspoken. And so I do applaud them actually taking the time to add this to the agenda and give it the time and weight that it deserves. Is definitely appreciated. And again, that's on Thursday. I am, as a follow-up, working with Susan McCutcheon to put together a workshop. It'll be an easy tutorial for residents to tune in to understand, now that the DEIS report is out, how we're going to walk you through how to submit your comments. We're going to show you how to do the quick version, all the way up to, if you want to be highly technical, how to cite different aspects of the remarks. But we just want to make it simple. So we're going to spend an hour on a Saturday morning on March 20th, just walking you through how to submit your comments. And thank you, Ms. McCutcheon, for offering to be our tutor to walk us through the tutorial on that. The other item is Earth Day is coming, and as I shared in the work session, we do want to do something big. It is the 10-year anniversary for Sustainable Maryland, who certifies sustainable communities and recognizes all of their green efforts. And so we do, anticipation of that celebration and Earth Day, we do just want to make a big splash about it. So just be thinking about it. Just know we'll be coming back with more details and asking for volunteers, students who need community service hours, anyone who wants to help, we'll give that information on how to participate in a variety of green efforts in recognition of Earth Day. And then finally, I do want to say, I am very concerned about some of our residents who are not able to physically go and be vaccinated due to mobility issues. And so if you know of someone in that situation who does not have a loved one who can take them to be vaccinated or does not have access to transportation, could you just please email me and let me know? I'm trying to track that and communicating with the county about how to assist those residents, again, who cannot physically go to these vaccination sites, but who meet the criteria in order to be vaccinated. That would be very much appreciated. I'm working with the county on something to address that and would appreciate your help. And with that, concludes my report for tonight. Let me just scroll down here on the agenda. I think there was one more item, but this will have to be tabled, and or actually not necessarily, I'm sorry. So with the appointment of the supervisors of the elections, we did not appoint a new board per our charter by March the 1st. And so the existing board just continues their term. So according to our legal counsel, we don't need to vote or anything like that. The understanding is they just continue on. So do want to make that available to everyone. That information, just want to make that available. And our Board of Supervisors consists of Mr. Owen Clark, Ms. Rita Herndon, Ms. Judy Sojourner, Ms. Joyce Williams, Ms. Myrtle Lane, and Ms. Pat Williams. So I want to thank each and every one of you for stepping up to serve your community. And we appreciate how year after year you all find a way to get it done and you serve with a smile on your face. So we certainly appreciate that. Are there any other updates before we wrap up here? All right, hearing none, we will let everyone go, but certainly appreciate you taking the time to join us tonight and hope that you found the information valuable. Please stay safe. Again, thank you for all the residents who took time to honor Black History Month last month. And today is International Women's Day, so hopefully you took time to celebrate or just create a post or do something to honor that day as well. With that, I wish you all a good night and we'll see you back here in April. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night.